Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. It's where you come to every Monday to Thursday to get your top stories making headlines in Israel. And we are brought to you, as always, by Lay of the Land. So before we head into the weekend, let's check out those top stories. And we begin with a major deal that seems to have irked the Saudis. It has been reported that Saudi Arabian officials have contacted their Emirati counterparts, asking them or appealing to them to try and get out of the historical solar power for water deal that was signed this week between the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, and Israel. Now, this is the largest regional cooperation deal in the history of Israel and would see the creation of solar plants with the help of the United Arab Emirates in Jordan, as well as desalination plants in Israel. Now, apparently the Saudis are angry or upset that they weren't notified ahead of time. Now, the United Arab Emirates do not want to back out of this deal. It is quite a historic deal, but they have said that they will soften the language of the documents so as not to annoy their Saudi counterparts. In other news, also in the diplomatic sphere, Muslim-majority country Malaysia is refusing to grant visas to Israeli squash players who are there or who are due to play in a tournament next month. Now, the World Squash Federation says that they want a fair solution or fair outcome, and they want a tournament that is inclusive to all. However, Israeli Squash Association says that they will go to the Court of Arbitration in Sport in Switzerland if their players are not granted a visa. Now, it's not the first time Israeli players have been discriminated against in sports, and they have faced very, very heavy penalties, the countries, whoever it is that discriminates against Israeli players. We saw it in the Olympics where judokas refused to take to the tatami and compete against Israelis. They were subsequently kicked out of the Olympics and also put under investigation by the World Judoku Federation, and the same could go here for the World Squash Federation. Sports are supposed to be independent of politics, and discrimination against Israeli players will not be tolerated. Now, in a story that has really disturbed many of us here in Israel, news broke across the major publications earlier today that apparently in Gilboa prison there are allegations, and this was announced by a police commissioner, that female soldiers serving out their military time guarding the prisoners were allegedly used as or pimped out to grant sexual favors to keep or to mollify political prisoners. Now, Omer Bar-Lev, he is our public security minister, has appealed to the Attorney General, Avichai Mandelblit, to please open an investigation effective immediately into these allegations. He says they are both nauseating and shocking, and we are in agreement with him over them. These allegations came to light in an investigation into the escapees from Gilboa prison just several months ago, but were quickly squashed. We hope that an investigation into these allegations will be opened effective immediately. And the reason why we are telling you the story is that today is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and Israel, like all countries around the world, is impacted by gender-based violence. To prepare for today and for the subsequent 16 days of activism against violence against women, one of the leading women's organizations, the World International Zionist Organization, released their report and findings showing shocking statistics in the increase in calls for help and calls to domestic violence hotlines. Over the last year, some 21 women have been murdered as a result of domestic violence. And because of the global pandemic, we have seen these figures rise astronomically around the world. Meanwhile, Israel has launched a new project. It's an artificial intelligence project where victims of domestic violence are sharing their experiences, what they have endured, with members of the public. So those are your top stories today as we head into the weekend. It has been a very, very emotional one for many of us, especially here in Modi'in and especially our expat South African community with the brutal murder of Eli K at the hands of a Hamas terrorist earlier this week. As we head into the weekend, we want to appeal to you to please, in Eli's name, light candles or lay tefillin, bake challah, do a mitzvah, do a good deed for somebody to remember Eli K. This is a request of his family, and we want to honor him by bringing more light in a very, very dark situation. But don't forget, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, you can read our website at www.layoftheland.online. We have a whole host of articles there, including one about Hindu and Israeli relations. Very, very interesting. It's also up on our Facebook page. While you're there, please give us a like or a follow. And don't forget to see where in the country we will be for Shabbat and send us your Shabbat Shalom greetings. We are also on YouTube at the Israel Brief. If you're viewing us there, please click on the red subscribe button, like and share our content, and don't forget to interact with us on Twitter at LayofTheLand5. So with the weekend edition of the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks, wishing you all a peaceful, a safe weekend. On Sunday night, we will begin to kindle the Chanukiot. So I want to wish you Chag Chanukah Sameach. And of course, for all our friends and family in the United States, it's Thanksgiving today. We wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. And all that remains now is for me to wish you all a wonderful weekend. May it be peaceful, may it be restful. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll check in with each other next week for those top stories.